Pralada Lada Dayane Hiranyakashi Purbaksha Silatam Kanakalaye Eton Risinga Paraton Risinga Yato Yato Yamitaton Risinga Bahen Risinga Ritain Risinga Narasinghamadem Sharanam Prapadye Tavakara Kamalavare Nakamadbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipo Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahariropa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Nrsingadev, Jai Nrsingadev, Nrsingadev, Jai Nrsingadev. Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Prahlad Maharaj. Nrsingadev Bhagavan ki, Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki, Go Premanande. Well, let me just, I'm going to sing Jai Radha Madhava in 1 minute, or maybe 2. You know, we have here today, I think it could easily be, the greatest assembly of senior and advanced devotees that we've ever had in escort. Could easily be. I'm not exactly sure, but it could easily be. Vaishnav Pran Prabhu we already mentioned. Regional Secretary for Northern KZN. We've got His Grace Swarup Damodar Prabhu here, a man of many talents, currently Temple President of Radharanath Temple, not long ago overseeing, and he still is, overseeing what's going in the whole country. One of the group of a couple, 2 or 3 devotees doing that. And we've got Sweta Dweep Prabhu, who is really Temple President of ISKCON Port Elizabeth for the last 17 years. And he's really very advanced and experienced and competent devotee and a real gentleman. And I'm actually going to ask him when the time comes for the Guru Puja we'll be having, right? For the Guru Puja in a little while. I'm going to ask Sweta Dweep Prabhu to sing that. Okay, Sweta Dweep Prabhu? Anyway, it's okay, yeah. And we've also got His Grace Deva Prabhu, another multitasker, but I think is he the head pujari or, yeah, amongst other things, actually, amongst other things, in the Radharanath Temple. You should try and get to know these devotees because they're special people who enrich my life. And I'm sure if you get to know them, they'll enrich your lives too. So, right, we are going to say a few words regarding, what is it exactly? Can you tell us what it is? Serving in a mood of devotion and mood of service in love and devotion, humility and cooperation. How's that? That's nice. That is just really nice. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare. Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachare. Yamuna Tira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramahangsa Parivrajik Charis Tadasasi Samadhis Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Gruntaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki. Shri Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki. ISKCON Escort Yatra Ki. Gopremanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, so just remind me again the exact details, what is it, of the topic? Mood of service. With love and devotion. Humility and cooperation. Gosh, what a topic. That is just a really wonderful topic. So let us read a verse. from Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, devotees, we are going to read today from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, the universal form. And we are going to read verse 54, which in terms of the subject, of course, it's a very, very appropriate verse. Yeah, so actually first you can just repeat after me, please. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yes, well, again, I'm very happy to be here with you all. I first came to Escort. It was either 1980 or 81, I forget exactly. There was a family living here who were relatives of Suniti Devi Dasi from Peter Maritzburg. I don't know if many or even if any of you knew her. She passed away quite some years ago. But she was really nice, and they were a really nice family. I think she had a sister living here. And I remember coming to visit her one time around 1980 or 81. That was my first visit to Escort. And since then, I actually haven't been here so many times, but I've been here a few times and seen the devotees. And I think you could say there's great potential here in Escort for developing the Krishna consciousness movement. Now, this young devotee who's back on the right-hand corner there, who's in samadhi now, he's in trance. He was in the Rath Yatra in Ladysmith just a few hours ago. And he went the whole way, right? He went the whole way. And my thing here measures it. It was about 3 to 4 kilometers. And this little man, he went the whole way. He lives here? Yes. What's his name? Dhruv. Anyway, you just relax, Dhruv. You deserve it. Right. Well, with youngsters like that, Krishna consciousness can develop. In Escort, it's a fact. Okay, so here we go then. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, verse 54. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya aham evam vidorjuna gyatum drashtum chatatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. Translation. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. That's a wonderful verse, isn't it? Just a really beautiful verse. And Srila Prabhupada actually gives pretty substantial purport Oh yeah, it really is. It really is pretty substantial. I won't read the whole thing. I'll just read maybe the first paragraph or just a little bit of the purport. So Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna can be understood only by the process of undivided devotional service. He explicitly explains this in this verse, so that unauthorized commentators who try to understand Bhagavad Gita by the speculative process will know that they are simply wasting their time. No one can understand Krishna or how he came from parents in a four-handed form and at once changed himself into a two-handed form. These things are very difficult to understand by study of the Vedas or by philosophical speculation. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that no one can see him or enter into understanding of these matters. Those who, however, are very experienced students of Vedic literature can learn about him from the Vedic literature in so many ways. There are so many rules and regulations. And if one at all wants to understand Krishna, he must follow the regulative principles described in the authoritative literature. One can perform penance in accordance with those principles. For example, to undergo serious penances, one may observe fasting on Janmashtami, the day on which Krishna appeared, and on the 2 days of Ekadasi, the 11th day after the new moon and the 11th day after the full moon. As far as charity is concerned, it is plain that charity should be given to the devotees of Krishna, who are engaged in his devotional service to spread the Krishna philosophy or Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Krishna consciousness is a benediction to humanity. Lord Chaitanya was appreciated by Rupa Goswami as the most munificent man of charity, because love of Krishna, which is very difficult to achieve, was distributed freely by him. So if one gives some amount of his money to persons involved in distributing Krishna consciousness, that charity given to spread Krishna consciousness is the greatest charity in the world. And if one worships as prescribed in the temple. In the temples in India, there's always some statue, usually of Vishnu or Krishna. That is a chance to progress by offering worship and respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, how far will I go here? Okay, well, just a touch more. For the beginners in devotional service to the Lord, temple worship is essential, and this is confirmed in the Vedic literature. The Shvetashvata Upanishad, chapter 6, verse 23. Yasya deve para bhaktiya, yata deve tata guru, tasyaite katita hyarta, prakashante mahatmana, which means one who has unflinching devotion for the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master in whom he has similar unflinching faith can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead by revelation. One cannot understand Krishna by mental speculation. For one who does not take personal training under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, it is impossible to even begin to understand Krishna. Isn't that amazing? Let me just read that again. For one who does not take personal training under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, it is impossible to even begin to understand Krishna. The word "to" is specifically used here to indicate that no other process can be used, can be recommended, or can be successful in understanding Krishna. So like I said, there's quite a bit more. And I assume you all have Bhagavad Gita at home. So I'd suggest that in your free time, you read this verse again, Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, verse 54, and read the whole purport, because it's nice. It's really, it's very deep, but it's just really wonderful. It's really moving, actually. So, but anyway, let me just read the verse again. Bhaktya tvananyaya sakya ahamevam vidorjana gyatam drashtam chatatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Right, so let us just say a few words about this. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadeshatarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchikalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyaevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Oh, and just one thing, I just thought of or remembered. Would it be possible, I don't know if it's possible, to pass around a sheet or little note something and a pen so devotees could write down questions if they want? Anyway, you can manage that? Oh, okay. Do you think it's possible? Or is it going to be a bit too much of a challenge? Yeah, because I heard, you know what I heard? I heard a number of things. But one thing I heard is that the devotees in escort are very intelligent and thoughtful, and they have many questions, good questions. I heard that. That's what they told me. Right. Anyway, if it's practical, and you can feel free to write down a question if you have one. But yes, this is a really beautiful verse. Only by undivided devotional service can Krishna be understood. And not just understood, to just understand something as one thing. I mean, it's a very important thing. But Krishna says, I can be understood as I am standing before you and can thus be seen directly. That's another step beyond just understanding. to actually see Krishna, my gosh, that is quite something. But it really is possible if one cultivates devotion. There's a verse, if I remember correctly, it's in Brahma Samhita. Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. Yes, it's talking about Krishna. Vedeshu durlabham. Prabhupada made the point in the purport. He made the point in the purport that we can't really, things like how Krishna appeared, Janmastami's coming, of course, next month, the anniversary of Lord Krishna's appearance in this world. And he appeared, if you're familiar with the pastime, first of all he appeared in a four-handed form, like big form. He appeared in front of them. And then suddenly, right in front of their eyes, he reduced his size to the size of like Dhruv's size. How old is Dhruv? 3. Krishna was even smaller. Yeah, so this little size with 2 arms in front of their eyes. And as Prabhupada said, these things, this specifically how he did that, these things are very difficult to understand by study of the Vedas or by philosophical speculation. Just book knowledge. Or just out of our small brains, some speculation. So that verse is there, the line is there I mentioned. Vedeshu durlabham. By study of the Vedas, it's difficult, durlabha. Adurlabham atma bhakto. So durlabha means difficult, adurlabha means not difficult, easy. So Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. Yeah, very difficult to understand Krishna just by reading books, even Vedic books. Frankly, even by reading Bhagavad Gita without being under proper guidance. But Atma Bhakto, Adurlabham, it's easy to understand Krishna when one has devotion. Yes, when one has devotion. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Velochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Velokayanti. That is Brahma Samhita. Lord Brahma says, Premanjana, if one treats one's eyes by the prema anjana. Anjan means basically it's the Sanskrit term for what is nowadays called kajal, I think. You know what I mean? This black stuff. Huh? Kajal, yeah. People put around their eyes. In Sanskrit, anjan. So, premanjan means like a treatment for the eyes, but it's the treatment of love. Premanjana, charita bhakti velochanena, through bhakti, through devotion. Santas sadaiva hridayeshu velokayanti. And the saintly people, the devotees, whose eyes have been treated like that, Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu, within their hearts, they see the Lord all the time. All the time. That's an advanced level. It doesn't just come, after a couple of days or even a few years, but step by step it comes as one cultivates devotion. Devotion is the key. in the topic, there's also mention of cooperation, of humility. But these are they can all be put under the heading of devotion also. Devotion, not so much necessarily expertise, brilliance, some competency. Of course, these things are welcome, but, there's lots of competent people, even in escort, who got nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, particularly the ones running I won't even mention, but, the big factory on the way out on the left, that one. I'm sure there's some very competent people running it, and they're expert, they know what they're doing. But they've got no bhakti. They've really got no bhakti at all for Krishna. In fact, I assume the great majority know nothing about Krishna whatsoever. So, yes. So devotion is the thing. Devotion is the thing which will attract Krishna. In the next chapter 12, there's a series of verses at the end of the chapter from verse 13 through to the end of the chapter, verse 20. And in those verses, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna what sort of personal qualities he appreciates in a person. If a person has this quality, that quality, and there's quite a number, maybe 50 qualities he mentions, then Krishna says, such a devotee is very dear to me. Yeah. So, Srila Prabhupada gave one class which was recorded, and if you happen to have Prabhupada's books on computer, as I'm reading from right now, which I think are available free, then you'll see Srila Prabhupada gave one class on verses 13 and 14 of the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The first two verses in the sequence. If you're like this, if you're like that, then you'll be very dear to me. And Srila Prabhupada, just beginning that class, Srila Prabhupada says that yes, this is very important. This is very important, what sort of person you are, what qualities you have. What your character is. And he says, yes, this is very important. How will Krishna love me? How will I become such a person that Krishna will feel moved when he sees me and think, this person is just so nice, and really have some attraction and affection for us. So this is the essence of Krishna consciousness, and not so much expertise and all that, although it's welcome, it's absolutely welcome. And of course, I assume you're familiar with the story of Hanuman and the spider. Spider, I think it's a spider. Is it a spider? Anyway, let's say it's a spider. Hanuman and the spider from Ramayana. Nice little story. Srila Prabhupada makes reference to it also. They're building the bridge to Lanka. And Hanuman and the monkeys, they're carrying these boulders and even mountain peaks, would you believe, and bringing them down to the beach and throwing them into the sea there. and they're floating by the arrangement of Lord Ram. They're real boulders, which normally, of course, will definitely not float. But they're floating. So they're busy running up and down and carrying and throwing and, this whole team, huge team. And there was one spider who was a devotee. He was a devotee of Lord Ram, and he wanted to help. So he's just a little spider. He was grabbing grains of sand and running down and throwing them at just a few inches, and they were floating too. But the problem was he was just a little spider, and you got all these big, powerful monkeys running up and down. And Hanuman, a few times, he almost trod on the spider. And it was just, kind of inhibiting him. Yeah, he was always having to look and make sure he didn't step on the spider, so he felt he couldn't really get into it. So after a while he spoke to the spider and he said, you want to help. That's nice, but if you want to help, the best thing to do is please stop trying to help. Just get out of the way so we could do the real service and throw the boulders and build the bridge. And of course the spider, he's a devotee, and he was disappointed when he heard that. But Lord Ram heard it. And Lord Ram came and chastised Hanuman that this spider is doing his best according to his capacity. You have much bigger capacity physically, but on the level of the heart, on the level of devotion, he's no less than you. He's no less than you. So don't treat him like that. So yes, some devotees are very expert and can do all sorts of sophisticated things even. Some other devotees, maybe all they can do is clean the floor. Something very, very simple. And they can't do anything which is complex. But the point is the devotion, the love which is there, the desire to please which is there. That's the crucial thing. So we all have different capacities and so on like that. The main thing is to really do our best according to our capacity to please Krishna in a mood of love, in a mood at least of appreciation, appreciating that Krishna is so nice. Krishna has done so much for me. What would my life be if Krishna had not given me mercy? I'd just be washed out in the material world, really. So that mood is really the main thing. And, one interesting little thing, which I just happened to have with me just by chance or Krishna's arrangement, I don't know if you can make it out from there, but you see my bead bag. Anyway, I'll tell you what it is. My bead bag. This is hand-painted by a devotee in St. Petersburg, Russia. And it's Sanatan Goswami. You see on this side, your right-hand side, it's Sanatan Goswami. And on your left-hand side, you see Daka. That's the deity of Madan Mohan, very famous old deity of Krishna, who was worshipped by Sanatan Goswami. And Sanatan Goswami in the picture is handing to Madan Mohan a little ball. It's a little bread ball. Little bread ball, it's about that size. And it's called bhati. If you want later on, you can come and have a look. It's a really beautiful little painting. So the story is, there's Sanatan Goswami, great devotee. He's offering Madan Mohan this bread ball. And the way you make these bread balls is you just make some dough and you just roll a ball and you just throw it into an open fire and just wait for a while. And after a while you take it out, and the outside, of course, is burnt. It's all black. And you just break that off. And inside there's a small ball, sort of bread sort of thing. I mean, it's not really like nice bread, but it's some type of bread. And it's called bhati. And Sanatan Goswami, he was an extreme renunciate. He would walk around the Vrindavan area. The whole area, it's a big area, 68 square miles, something like that. It's a big area. And he would walk around there doing what they call parikrama. That's what he did. He practically never stopped. He went around, and when he finished, he went around again. So one day, just listen to this, it's an interesting story. He was in one particular part of the Vrindavan area called Gokula. It's actually where Krishna had his childhood pastimes, his earliest pastimes, Gokula, just across the river, Yamuna River from Mathura. So one day he was sitting there chanting, and he saw a group of boys playing a ball game just out a little way in front of him. And he saw one boy, one of those boys, was really dark-skinned. Just really, really basically black, actually black. And he looked at this boy and he realized, oh, that's Krishna. That's Krishna. He's playing a ball game with these village boys. So he followed Krishna home across the river to Mathura, and followed him to the house where he was living. This is 500 years ago or so, something like that. And he saw in went Krishna, and he followed him in and spoke to the man of the house. His name was Chobe. And he told this Chobe, he said, listen, this boy is not just some boy. This is Krishna. This is the Supreme Lord. You can't just have him running around playing ball games, and you got to look after him. You got to put him on the altar and worship him. He's the Supreme Lord. So Chobe said, oh, okay. So he put the deity, this Krishna, actually Madan Mohan, on the altar, the family altar, and told him, all right, stand there, hold the flute, that's the way. Yeah, just hold it and just don't move. Okay, we'll get back to you when it's time for the next food offering. So now Krishna is just standing there, just inert. So Sanatan Goswami thought, yeah, I did a good thing here. And he went and he took rest, but that night he had a dream, and that same Krishna, Madan Mohan, appeared in his dream and told him, Sanatan, it is so boring just standing here, just waiting for the next meal. It's so boring. I don't want to do it. I want to come with you around Vrindavan on Parikrama. I want to come with you. So the next day, Sanatana Goswami came back to the house, and that Chobe, the man of the house, he'd had the same dream basically. And so Chobe allowed Sanatana Goswami to take Madan Mohan with him. So he did. And Sanatana Goswami, like I said, he was an extreme renunciate. And he would go out every day and try and beg some food. And some days he'd get a little raw rice, just uncooked rice. Some days he might get a little vegetable. Some days all he got was some bati. That's all he got, nothing else. So, and whatever he got, the rice, the uncooked rice, he would just soak it in Yamuna water so it wouldn't be so hard. I don't know if you've ever tried eating completely uncooked rice. It can be bad for your teeth. So you soak it to make it so it's not too hard. So one day, and so whatever he got, he'd offer it to Madan Mohan, and Madan Mohan would eat it. One day he offered some bati, that's what's in the picture there, these little bread balls. He offered the bati to Madan Mohan, and Madan Mohan picked it up, took a nibble, and said, "Sanatan, can't I at least have some salt with my bati?" Because it was just flour and water. Can't I at least have some salt with my bati? And Sanatan told him, "I knew you would complain. I knew you'd complain. I'm going to take you back to Chobe, and there they will feed you deep fried cauliflower sabji in sour cream with puris and sweet rice and samosas and pakoras with chutney. Yeah, and you won't have to worry about these funny little bread balls." But Madan Mohan said, "No, no, 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 no. Don't take me back. I want to be with you. So don't worry. I'll take my bati without salt. But just let me stay with you." So that's because Sanatana Goswami, he had that devotion, that love. And that's the main thing. That's the main ingredient, is the affection, the love from the heart. That's the main thing that Krishna is looking for. So, Krishna has everything. He has all the money, and he has all the everything. He has all the planets. Of course, he lets us use some of these things for a while, but there's one thing Krishna does not have, which we have, and we're holding it back from him. He doesn't have our love. He doesn't have our love. And that's what he wants to taste. That's what he wants to taste. And without that, you may know the story from Mahabharata, how Krishna went to try to negotiate peace just before the battle of Kurukshetra. And he went to Hastinapur, and he met Duryodhana, who's the leader of the bad guys, the other side. And Duryodhana invited him, "Come to the palace for lunch, we'll give you a royal feast." Duryodhana, of course, is a demon. He hates Krishna, but he's being diplomatic and trying to be polite. And Krishna didn't really want to go there, but what to do? He'd been invited. But then he met Vidura, who was his great devotee, and who was also living there. But Vidura was extremely poor. And Vidura invited Krishna for lunch also. So now Krishna's got 2 invitations. One for a royal feast from this very antagonistic and unpleasant person, Duryodhana, and the other is an invitation from the very dear but extremely poor devotee, Vidura. So take a guess, where would you have gone? Anyway, take a guess where Krishna went. He went to Vidura's place, even though he knew he's not going to get very much. And indeed, when he got there, of course, Vidura and his wife were so happy that Krishna had come to see them. But what are they going to feed him? They only had bananas, just some bananas. So they fed Krishna bananas, but not exactly just bananas. Vidura the wife was peeling the bananas, and Vidura was handing the actual banana to Krishna, and Krishna was eating. But Vidura and his wife, they were just so overwhelmed and ecstatic and so happy that Krishna was here. They kind of didn't really know what they're doing exactly. So she was peeling the bananas, and Vidura was giving Krishna the skin, and they were throwing away the fruit. And Krishna was so happy to be with his devotees. He was accepting the skin without noticing and eating the skins. And Krishna said, after a while, Krishna said, these are the best bananas I've ever tasted. Now, don't start thinking that maybe you've been missing out on something for years, and maybe now you got to start eating the banana skins. No, it was just an exchange of love. That's what it was. So this is a really important point to bear in mind. And, when we say love, devotion, Krishna says, only by undivided devotional service. Devotion. What do we mean? Well, of course, when we hear the term devotion, we think of emotion, naturally. Devotion, emotion. Of course, there must be a relationship. But it's not just a matter of emotion alone. Devotion really indicates that the devotee really cares. The devotee really cares for Krishna. And therefore the devotee really tries his or her best to offer service in the best way possible. This is when we talk about devotion, this is what we mean. It's not just some devotion like, oh, I love you, Krishna. Oh. It's not just a matter of something like that. But devotion is a practical thing, that we're actually ready to do something for Krishna. And when we do that something, we do it from the heart, but making our very best effort to do it nicely to please Krishna. So let's try and work on that. You've got this magnificent temple project here, it's just simply magnificent. Vaishnav Pran here, Prabhu, lives in Maritzburg, and I think he'd like to ship the building to Maritzburg. And Manjuali Devi Dasi yesterday sent the plans to the devotee in charge in Newcastle, and I think he wants to ship this to Newcastle. But really, seriously, you've got such a magnificent building here. It is absolutely just first class facility for service. So let's get into it and really develop the building as such, get the building built and opened, and when it's opened and before it's opened also, from now, start working with the people of the escort area to get them involved in Krishna consciousness as of now, and at least when the temple's open, because we're going to want to fill this temple up every Sunday. And the number of us here right now, we would fill one of the little corners on one side. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity to do some meaningful service, to really do something and make a contribution for the pleasure of Krishna, for the satisfaction of Srila Prabhupada, and to help the people of this area who otherwise, particularly the ones who are working in that factory, as you're going out of the town on the southern side, that big factory on the left, I won't mention what it is, but yeah, we got to save the day around escort. Otherwise, it'll just be a shame. So there you go, devotees. Hare Krishna. And I think there's only... Oh no, there's 2 questions. Oh, that's nice. Okay. So let us try to answer these 2 questions. So we're giving class on Friday, and we commented on what Srila Prabhupada told a devotee who couldn't work with another devotee. And Srila Prabhupada's comment was that you must work with him because he's a devotee. That's true. Why we sometimes, even though we understand this instruction, it's difficult for us to follow this, to work with devotees, to resolve differences and work together, serve together for Krishna. So the question is, why? Why? Well, the answer is, actually the answer really is that, if you really get down to it, it's connected with a lack of humility and something like that. That at least that's part of the picture. Because even like Haridas Thakur was completely unreasonably, unfairly, it was just so abusive and horrible. He was caned in 22 or 3 marketplaces, either 22 or 23. And usually people, when they were put through this punishment for doing something, usually they would die after 3, 4, 5 marketplaces of being, smashed in each marketplace. Haridas Thakur didn't die. They got through the entire 20-something marketplaces, and he was, as they say, as fresh as a daisy. He was just like, yeah, Haribo. And the men who'd been beating him with these canes, they were finished. They were just exhausted. I think they're a little like Dhruv, just, whoa, knocked out. And they just couldn't do more. And they said to Haridas Thakur that, we have failed to kill you, so we are going to be killed. We're going to be killed. And Haridas, his reaction was, oh no, I don't want that you're going to suffer because of me. So you know what he did? He just voluntarily died on the spot. Just dropped dead, just like that. Yeah. And he didn't think, yeah, good, you should die for doing that to me. My mother would always tell me, sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you, or something like that. You heard that one? Yeah. And she would tell me, always count to 10. If someone says something, nasty to you, count to 10 before you punch them in the nose. So the thing is, if anyone had a right to be angry with someone and offended and how dare you do this and you should get, the worst for what you did to me, it was Haridas Thakur. But he didn't react like that because he's a pure-hearted devotee. So we should bear that in mind. We should always be happy to see devotees. Even if there's a devotee we've had a difference with on some technical point or on something, but still we should be happy to see the devotees because they're devotees. Because they're devotees, and devotees are very rare and they're very special. Actually, in that story, let me just tell you the whole story. It'll only take a minute. This devotee was complaining to Prabhupada that some other devotee, he's like this, and he's like that, and he's too much, and I just can't work with him. And Prabhupada said, no, you should try, because he's a devotee. And the devotee said, but Srila Prabhupada, he does this, and he doesn't do that, and he's too much, and I just can't work with him. And Srila Prabhupada said, just try to tolerate him as I tolerate you. So don't worry, however sort of, nice you think you are, and I mean you are all nice, but however nice you may be, there's always going to be at least one person who's tolerating you. Don't worry. It's just the way of this material world. So humility and broad-mindedness in relationships, this will help with advancement. Right, so here now is a second question. Offering of the coconut to Lord Jagannath is auspicious, just like chanting the holy name. Why don't some devotees eat the coconut and they say it's not auspicious? You know what I'm referring to? At the beginning of the Ratha Yatra, they have a few devotees come forward with coconuts. They put camphor on top and they offer them to the deities. And we did this morning in Ladysmith. So, as I have heard from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, and, unfortunately we're not able to check with him further due to his absence, but he said that offering is not exactly like an offering to. It is a process for removing from the situation any inauspicious sort of energies or atmospheres which might be there. That's what he told me. That it's a matter of kind of drawing out inauspiciousness so that the event, the Rath Yatra, will be auspicious. So that's the idea. I mean, at least that's what he told me. And so, yeah, in that context, the coconuts are broken, then everything's picked up and removed. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Thank you for listening very patiently. Now we will have the Guru Puja to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, and special treat, wow, His Grace Sweta Dweep Prabhu will sing Guru Puja song for us. Srila Prabhupada ki